KoitCast. Today's guest is an animal communicator, speaker, author, and educator. She creates a symbiotic connection between the human species and the animal kingdom via intuitive communication. Please give a massive Koit welcome to Trisha McCagh. Hi Trisha, and welcome to KoitCast.
How are you going, Paul? I'm great. How are you?
I am super lush today, even though it was early in the morning, and I don't normally do these early in the morning, but I have to make an exception for an Australian superstar such as yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm sorry for getting you up early, but not really.
It's okay, there's a time change involved as well, so it's almost like the same time. So in that case, that's a win. Let's start
Yeah, well,
with...
it's afternoon for me, so
what time is it there, actually?
it's about 4 in the afternoon, actually.
Not so bad then. I was expecting it to be like late evening or something, so that's not so bad.
No, Europe's great. It's when you're dealing with the US and you're in Australia.
Oh, I see.
That's
Yeah.
a big issue. Yeah.
I always thought that was 11 hours, so like 8 now would be like 7 your time or something. I don't know. Maybe you're in a different time zone. Australia is a big place.
It is a big place. So at the moment, we've just come into summer. So we've got, we've got daylight saving just happened. Yours has just finished. And so now the Eastern States is 3 hours ahead of me.
Crikey.
In the same in the same country. So we have to do all our business in the morning. Otherwise, by the afternoon, they're all finishing up. They're all closing by 2 o'clock.
Swines.
I know, swines. But, anyway.
Indeed.
Perth doesn't believe in daylight saving, so there you go.
Oh, that's good. I have an opinion on that. We should scrap it anyway, the daylight savings thing, because it's just easier on the body, you know? My body can't get used to the change, but hey-ho. Let's start with, in your own words, who are you, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Well, I'm Trisha McCagh, animal communicator extraordinaire, and I'm from Perth, Western Australia, the land down under. But of course, I'm in the best place in Australia, just so you know, and I'm sure you guys can appreciate that because there is another place called Perth, as you know, over your end. So There you go. Yes.
Perth, Australia. Can I just ask a thing about Australia? Dangerous animals and spiders and things. What goes on there, please?
Okay, it's really hard to ask an animal communicator because I see all animals, including insects, as equals. So I don't kill anything, don't hurt anything, and I communicate with everything. But yes, I have had some people come from other parts of the world. We're used to it over here, but yes, there's a lot of spiders. I'm lucky where I am because there's very little that'll kill you in the spider department, but there's a couple over east. But we do have deadly snakes. Yes, we do. And apparently we're quite big on the shark activity over here as well. But really on land, we've got some dingoes and they don't really go about killing you. So it's really just some snakes and the odd spider. So I think we're actually very friendly here.
That's fair. Is there any land sharks?
Depends what you want to classify as land shark.
That's a good point. Yeah. We'll gloss over that one.
All the ones I've seen are in the water. Yeah. Look, I don't know. I think it's their domain. We just have to be a bit careful. They seem to like our surfers over here. But I don't know if you do a lot of surfing where you are because do you get any waves? So see, it's just the nature of the beast.
It is the nature of the beast. I have to ask one more specific question on this, which is, we grow up here in the UK not needing to worry about animals and stuff because there's nothing here really that's going to get you. Maybe an adder, maybe a black widow spider, but realistically, you never see them.
Yeah.
Are you taught early doors in Australia to watch out for this, watch out for that? This can kill you. This can kill you.
No, not at all. Because in suburbia, like in our city, we don't see any of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can still see it on the coast, but even where we are here on the coast, I don't think there's really any shark attacks. It's more down the southern part in the more remote areas, and in the colder waters. So we don't really have to worry. I mean, I could tell you I've hardly seen a snake in my whole lifetime. Like the amount of snakes I've seen are just so minimal. And some of them are because I've done horse clinics on rural land. And of course you might see the odd snake over there. But yeah, you've got to be a bit careful. They are around. They're in the dunes and things like that. But they just, we just don't really see them. What I do see though, and I want all your viewers to know this, that across the road from where I am, and I'm in a suburb, but across the road from where I am, I'm about 1 minute from the beach. So there's all kind of bush and sand and stuff across the road, and I see kangaroos every afternoon. It's great.
Ooh.
So a bunch of them eating over there. Because people say to me, do you ever see any kangaroos hopping around? Yeah, in a lot of suburbs, there's lots of kangaroos. They don't hurt you. They're lovely creatures. So you can see those, the occasional emu, maybe an echidna, a little spiky thing, but really that spiky. So yeah, and a few lizards. So I don't think it's and I've not known anyone who died from a snake bite or anything. So there you go. I think this country is very safe.
And you're like an advert for the tourist board. Yeah.
Do come over and visit. We have the best beaches in the world. Once you see our beaches, that's why Perth is a haven for UK people.
They love it, don't they, us UK people?
Well, there's as many Aussies as there are UK here in Perth. So they love it here. They love it here, honestly. So, you got to take the good with the bad. And as I said, I just never see them. So, yeah, no, it's very safe. It's wonderful.
Cool. A quick thing on the kangaroo things. I always thought they were quite dangerous because you always see those videos of them like coming up and punching people and dragging dogs and stuff. Or am I just seeing the dangerous content? That's all that Facebook is supplying to me.
They're just showing you that, yeah. And that's like in the outback. And 9 times out of 10, somebody's confronted an animal. So an animal will defend itself. The kangaroos I see all the time, I stay over this side of the road because if I even venture over there, they're gone.
I see.
They don't confront you. They don't. The only time that a kangaroo will confront you is if you give it reason to. The same as a snake. A snake is not out to kill you. It is just there doing its stuff. But if you, I think it was 83% of the people that die from snake bite are trying to catch it or kill it.
Yeah, sod that.
Right? So if you don't try to catch it or kill it, you haven't got a problem. Don't worry about it. They're trying to get away from you. They're scared of you. So if you make enough noise, they'll never come out anyway. So good. So there you go. I didn't realise there was just nothing over in the UK.
Yeah, what about the badger? It's very safe. I was telling somebody on another interview recently, actually, about the black panthers we do have in our countryside, believe it or not. Yeah, they're sometimes seen, but we don't know how big that population is. But they are there, but realistically, we're never going to confront them because I'm not going to go deep into the countryside on my own. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we do hear about them. Yeah, definitely. Sure. That's why I thought, I'm sure there's some. But have you ever been to Africa?
No.
That's a different proposition. If you ever have an African on your show, honestly, talk to them about their animals because honestly, I went to Africa thinking, wow, there's just absolutely nothing to worry about in Australia. So,
I see what I mean.
It's surreal. It's surreal. I worked with a lot of the big animals and it's surreal. They're just all roaming around. And you just never know what you're going to.
They're just roaming around. Yeah, wild animals, they tend to do that, don't they?
But we're talking even in towns and things.
Crikey.
Yeah, I went and stayed somewhere at a tourist thing, and it was fairly low key, but I was sitting out there on a deck chair and they said, oh, yeah, only 2 days ago, a leopard walked past. I went, sorry?
And took the guy off that deck chair, yeah.
Yeah. No. And then you go to the mineral spring and I'm sitting in there in the mineral spring and you're hearing all this. And then I said, oh, what's that? And so it's probably the bats or a snake or it's all open. Everything's open. There's not a lot of windows and doors on their outdoor stuff over there. So yeah, it's surreal. You're just sitting there going, I can't believe I'm like 5 meters from a crocodile. Like it.
Yeah, no.
No. It's and they're not worried about it. I've been in a vehicle when we've been being chased by 3 elephants, fully not mock charging.
Proper charging. Whoa.
That's
charging. An experience I bet you'll never forget.
I tell you, and then I worked with a lot of lions and things like that over there. I volunteered over there and I was doing a lot of work with lions. So, and these lions are only semi-tame, and you get 20 minutes of training to work with these big lions.
I'm just going to say no to Africa on the basis that I might die. So, and I'd like to be alive. So I'm going to give that a miss. And let me just close some bits down here. My computer was running slowly there. Now we are back to normal. Cool. All right, let's start into the animal communication side of things. So From your perspective, when do you think your animal communication journey actually began?
Oh, I know exactly when it began. So I was an oral health therapist. So I was in dentistry, in the profession of dentistry. And so I was very sciencey left brain, but I've always loved animals since time began. Anyway, I had just had two little kittens, a brother and a sister. And the brother, unfortunately, he was only about 13 months old. I was so close to these cats. I mean, and the boy, he was like my, my baby boy. So anyway, about 13 months, I came home one night and he was flailing around. He was really ill. He was lying on the floor. His legs were going in all directions. And so what I did was I obviously raced him to the vet, and the vet didn't know what was wrong with him. And then we had to go to another vet. And anyway, we were with a specialist. And he said, look, there's something metabolically wrong, genetically, and all sorts of things. And he said, there's about a 50-50 chance. So I said, I don't care what it costs, just save my cat. I just need my cat. So he did, but he gradually got a little bit worse and then worse and then worse. And they put him on life support. And the vet said, look, I don't think it's going to be great. But you might want to come in again, because I just visited him. So I went back, and I was the only one in the room with him in a big hospital. And anyway, he had tubes all around. And I just remember looking at him and I had the side of my face on his fur, on his face. And I was saying to him, listen, you're a young cat. You can do it. Be strong. You can make it. You can make it. And I was holding his paw. And in as clear as anything, I heard, you have to let me go. You have to set me free. And I just remember jumping back and then looking around the room going, who said that? It was so clear. I just looked around, and then there was nobody else in here but me. I was thinking the opposite, because that's what I was saying to him. And then I'm looking down, I'm going, was that you? So I ended up doing what he asked, asking the vet to let him go. And then all the phenomena that happened after that was what got me into animal communication. So as I said, I'm in dentistry. I have this beautiful cat. This happens. Then I was holding him for about an hour and a half afterwards. And I just knew somehow, I hadn't really given it much thought, but I just knew that he wasn't in the body, that he was up here around me. And my partner at the time had brought his sister. So she was there as well in a carrier. And I just said to him, I have to go where we got, his name was Bo, this cat. And I said, look, I have to go to the lady who gave me Bo. And he said, when? And I said, right now. And he just said, we don't even know if she's home. And I said, but I do. She's home. Things were coming out of my mouth that I didn't know, and they were just coming out very confident saying, but she is home and I need to go there. And he said, can't we go on another day? I don't feel up to it today. And I said, you don't have to go, but I'm going. And so is Maddie, Bo's sister. And so he ended up coming with me, and we got there and she was home. And then he went in the lounge room, I went in the kitchen, and I was telling her what had happened to Bo, because she bred him, and she, it was her first Burman kittens. They're Burmans. They're like rag dolls. And anyway, she said, I'm so sorry that it happened. I'm so sorry it was so early. And then I heard this meow, and this little kitten from across the room ran across the room and climbed up my jeans and looked at me and went meow. This kitten was 9 weeks old, apparently, as I found out, looked up at me. He was the spitting image of Bo as a kitten, because remember, Bo was only 13 months old. So I just looked shocked, and the lady, Deb, said to me, I'm sorry, yeah, that's Bo's half-brother. He was supposed to be sold this morning, but he wasn't. She goes, I've got a great idea. Listen, I want to take away all the hurt and the shadows, and I want you to have his half-brother. And I said, but I can't. I'm grieving Bo. I was so attached. I can't. Anyway, she said, that's fine. I'll keep him for several months, and when you're ready, then you can have him. And I said, oh, I'll have to think about it. So anyway, we went in the lounge room and was speaking to my partner, and he said, oh, who's that? And I said, oh, this is Bo's half-brother. And he goes, oh, wow. And I went, yeah, Deb wants to give him to us, but, and he said, And she said, but I can keep him for a few months. And he said, what are you going to do? And out of my mouth came, oh, we're taking him tonight. I'm sitting there going, figure out what's happening to me. Anyway, and he said, but I thought Deb just said, and I went, anyway, that's what we did. So I remember him being in the car on the way home thinking, I hope I can love you because I'm really grieving. Anyway, Bo was a very unusual cat. He did something. I've had cats all my life, and I'm sure anyone listening out there who has a cat that does this, I'd love to hear from them. Anyway, when Bo, every day that he was alive, we had a glassed-in balcony in an apartment. He would go out on the balcony, go to the first window, throw his head back and howl at the moon in a cat's way. Go to the second window, he'd howl at the moon. So I rang Deb up and said, I've got a cat that's howling at the moon. Is this normal? Because you're a behaviourist. And she said, no, I've never heard of this. And he wasn't doing it when he was here with me as a kitten. And she said, look, we've just got a unique cat. And I went, okay. So we didn't think anything of it. Okay, we got a cat that howls at the moon. Probably somebody else would have thought it was a bit more odd, but anyway, I don't know why we didn't. So we get this little kitten home, and 2 days later, we're sitting on the floor just watching some TV, feeling sorry for ourselves because we'd lost our beloved Bo. And this kitten comes out, meows and meows and meows. And I turned to him and said, I'll get your dinner in a minute. 2 minutes later, he jumps across our legs, goes out on that balcony to the first window, throws his head back, howls at the moon, goes to the second window, howls at the moon. Both of us just went, what is going on? You know, because who does that?
No,
you know,
who does that? I don't do that.
I don't do that either. And anyway, so I looked up on the internet and said, where do spirits go from animals? And animal communicators came up. They were coming up everywhere with their experiences and blah, blah, blah. I'd never heard of them before. So anyway, I pick up the phone and my partner says, who are you ringing? It's late at night. And I said, I don't know. It's some lady named Mary. and she's in America. And he went, did you check? We're in America. Did you check the time frame? I said, I'm not interested in the time frame. Have you just seen what our kitten did? And did you hear the voice it was in? It was not in a kitten's voice. Are you serious? I'm ringing Mary. I don't know who Mary is, but Mary's going to find out who I am. So I rang this number. It's some ungodly hour of the morning. And so poor Mary goes, and I said, listen, I'm a girl from Australia, told her the story, and she said, could we do this tomorrow in a few hours? And I went, okay, fine, I'll ring you. And she knew I would. So anyway, I rang her and I told her what had happened with Bo, and she told me what he had said in the exact words. Right? She told me
when you were in the...
Yeah, you have to let me go. You have to set me free. And I went, how did you know that? She said, because I asked him. And then I went, oh, okay. You seem very knowledgeable on this. There's something really weird going on. You see, we've got this kitten here. She started to laugh. And I said, I don't think it's a laughing matter. I said, you've got to understand this little kitten is howling at the moon. And she said, yes, because they can do that. And I said, how? What are you talking about? And she said, well, they can shift. They're still attached, but their soul essence moves away and his essence can move in, because he is clearly letting you know he's fine on the other side, clearly, because he's picking something that's very distinct, like a cat howling at the moon. So I went, oh my God. And I went, oh, does that mean I can get my Bo back? She goes, hang on, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, it has to be, because the new kitten was Shay. And she said, Bo and Shay have to work it out. It's nothing to do with me and it's nothing to do with you. They'll work it out. But Shay's telling me he's enjoying his new mum, so I don't know whether that's possible. She said, however, you're going to see this phenomena for 1 month, and we did. You could tell when he was Bo, when he was Shay. Now, this is a person who is very science-based, and it's like blowing my mind. So that's how I became an animal communicator, because I decided that a cat who's gone to all this trouble to come down here, go through that, put me through this, a new cat arrives, and Maddie was just acting weird. Something big is going on. So I decided to become an animal communicator. So I looked around for courses or something that could kind of, so I asked Mary. Mary said, but you're already doing it. I said, yeah, but I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm just able to hear them, but but I don't, it's a bit spontaneous. So
Let
she
me ask you
sent
a
me,
question quickly here.
yeah,
When he was on his deathbed and he said that
yeah,
stuff to you, did you
yes.
hear it audibly through the ear or was it in your head?
It sounded like it was audible, but it would have been in my head, because I'm sure if somebody had been standing with me, they wouldn't have heard it. So I'm hearing it with my mind, because
Was it,
that's
and
how
it
this
is the other
works.
thing, in your mind, was it your own voice in your mind? Do you know what I mean?
No, that's why I looked around, because it wasn't my voice.
What did it sound like then?
It was a different voice, because in the beginning of animal communication, I could hear the different voices of different animals. They had different tones, they had
Ah,
a different way. It was like your voice is different to mine. That's how it was different. But this is the tricky part. When the voice kind of disappears, and sometimes they do, then you've got to decipher between your thoughts and theirs. But what happens is it, and we can go into that technically, but it comes into a different part of the brain. And so mine is now very separate. I know when it's not me easily. It's so
is
separate.
that like a case of knowing that if I'm touching this side of my cheek to this side, is it that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's distinct. Yeah, it's separate. It's like, oh no, that's not mine. I wouldn't
Mm.
think or say that. It's like when somebody says, "Oh, you said such and such the other day," and you go, "No, no, no, I would never have said that." It's as clear as that, but not always initially. And this is what I find when I teach people. They find it difficult to decipher, but it's just through practice and understanding and feeling the different energy. It's a totally different energy to yours. So it's very distinct. And that's why that was in its purest form when he spoke to me, because that's why I looked around and went, was that the vet? Like,
Yeah.
because I could hear it, but it was distinct. And you've got to be a little bit quiet and peaceful. And of course I was, because I was just with him and I was speaking softly to him, and I was in the now, totally in the now. Wasn't rattering and chattering in my mind. I was just in the now. And so he could speak to me easily. It was very, very distinct.
And when you heard that voice, did that sort of shatter your world paradigm or anything at that point? Because that was the first introduction of it. You're like, what the? Is
Yeah.
it that?
What the?
What the
How
followed by
can,
whatever? Yeah.
yeah, what the follow? So how, it's like, how can it, what?
Mm.
Like I'd always dreamt about this. I don't know about your listeners, but it's like Dr. Dolittle was always something that I used to go, oh my God, that would be so wonderful. Like you don't see their mouth move, by the way, when you do animal. But it was the best thing since sliced bread, Dr. Dolittle. I was just so infatuated. Now with this realization that it's true. So did those filmmakers know it was true, but didn't have enough communicators or enough research? Because nearly everything, like The Matrix with Keanu Reeves and all of it's all based on, I believe, what people know. You know what I mean? That's how they can be so distinct with it and why it can resonate, because it's like reality. It's like the truth put into a
Mm.
movie. It's not just thought provoking. It's real. And that's what I feel with Dr. Dolittle. And animals are funny, and they can be quite flippant. They don't small talk a bit like with the various Dr. Dolittles that we've had. They don't kind of small talk. They talk when there's something to talk about, which is unlike us, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they won't go to another animal. So what do you think about the weather, Fred? That
Mm. They're not
they
interested
feel
in the weather.
weather.
Yeah.
No, because they feel it, they live it, they already know what it's going to be, because I mean, look at the 2004 tsunamis, why there was no wild animals killed, and why the elephants were trying to get children on their back and take them up the hill, because they knew what was coming an hour and a half at least, I think,
Mm.
before anything happened. So they are very aware. They are in the same vibration as the planet. It's us who sits separate. Now, the ancients, not so. And more than likely the indigenous, who can read things. I remember Uncle Magpie, one of the indigenous here in Australia, explained to me, when that plant flowers and then that berry turns this color and you see the sea eagle way up in the sky, then it's ready to fish. it's fishing time. And I went, really? And he went, yes, but you have to wait for the sea eagle to fly off. And I said, why? And he said, because the sea eagle will go up in the sky and he will look down upon the fish and he lets the strong breeding fish go first. He will not partake of those. Then he goes down and fishes. And when he is done, it is time for us to fish. And that is why we can preserve the planet by hearing it, seeing it, and feeling it, and knowing what the planet needs. And unfortunately, that's not what the rest of the world is doing.
No, we're disconnected because we're tied to technology and ego and God knows what else. We're completely disconnected.
That's right.
That's also because I'll be honest, there's too many of us, if I'm being honest. That's what I feel.
Oh, no, please be honest, because, I'll be careful what I say here because, but they're always talking about culling and doing, things to the animals. I look at us as just another species. And I'm going to be honest, I did a TV program over here and the guy was fascinated by it because he came to me afterwards and he goes, oh my God, I keep thinking about what you said, that like if we disappeared from the planet would thrive. But if the animals disappeared, we'd die. It's the truth.
Yeah, so especially bees and things like that.
More important. Yeah, but all of them, because the ecosystem creates bacteria, creates right down to the amoeba. It's all we are at the top or the apex, predator. So if you take that out, there's other things that won't necessarily go fanatical just because we've disappeared. You know what I mean?
Everything will return to balance, won't it? Yeah,
it'll all still remain in balance. It's us who's we've created all the problems here, and we need to listen to the indigenous who are the ones who are in touch with the land. We also need to listen to the animals because the animals tell us a great deal through the communication about what's going on behind the scenes. So, they talk about tapestries of energy and how the species all interlink on the planet. And when they have involuntary extinction created by us, they wipe out one of those species. They said it causes an imbalance and it starts to rock the planet in different ways energetically. And then this is why they said there's also voluntary extinction. I said, when do you volunteer that? And they said, well, that you can ask your scientists that certain species disappear they just disappear and the scientists don't know why, because we're no longer needed on the planet. So we remove ourselves and then all of a sudden a new species appears, even though they've researched that area over and over again. They said, because now we need a different energy there. So there's new species turning up all the time. There's some of them dissipating and not from us, but most of it is from us. And that is what's causing all of these problems and why there's so much stress. There's just too many humans.
Yeah.
There's just
double-edged sword though, because as much as I would like there to be less people, because let's be honest, right? I don't know what it's like in Australia, but all the green fields around here are being built on. So it's just all going for people to people to people, right? And that annoys the living hell out of me. However, I also would like to still be here to experience world. So there are too many humans, but I wouldn't want to be one of the ones cold. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just think, and it's not even cultural, but there's some cultures that, don't have the same facilities as us. There's a different culture going on. I remember when I was in Africa and I was speaking to the African guys and I said about, the amount of children and the Africans told me, and they said, well, it's actually not the guys who decide on the children, it's actually the women. But he said, we used to have a lot of children because a lot of them would die from malaria and various things, but that's not happening as much now. And so that needs, I'm just not saying it's all the Africans, it's just one culture. But even here, it's, governments are giving incentives and all of this. I'm not saying don't increase the population, but we just don't need to have 5 and 6 children anymore. We just don't need to have these amount of humans. You've got to think of what's going to happen. And if you're going to bring these children, you're going to want them to run out of resources, and they will. It's going to happen. Things will happen. And we're already getting children now that are being affected from too many screens. There's technology, but there's also anxiety. I've never seen I don't know about the UK, but we've got a lot of children here with anxiety. which is why I'm working on a project for children, actually. But it because they just need to go back to, I don't know how old you are, but I'm
Nearly
a
50.
yeah, well, I'll put another 10 years on that, and that's in my vicinity. So at least. And so in my day, I look back and, we didn't have this amount of people. We didn't need that amount of people. I don't know why we can't stay at that amount of people and we just didn't have the phones. We got outside, we have exercise, we just didn't have obesity. We didn't have a lot of the problems that a modern world is creating, and it's not creating healthy individuals anymore. It's actually a very sick environment. They're saying now statistically that the children are going to, end before the parents, because of the level of processed foods and various things. And now what's happening is, I'm seeing it in my industry of the animals. The animals are now getting the same diseases. So where the humans, people used to only get cancers in older age, and then and now it's happening in 30s, and they're talking about that. There's a whole reason for that. But so that was in when I was younger, only your grandparents were getting cancers, right? This happened with animals. Then it started to get younger with people for a long time. Then we started to see it in animals. Now we're starting to see what's happening with the younger people is happening in animals as well. And which animals? Well, the domestic ones. What are the domestic ones doing? They're living with us. So they've got the same diets, and people are feeding them kibble, and which is processed. They're not going to raw diets. They're not looking at natural stuff or organics, so that's why the animals are suffering the same ails and deep diseases.
If like sensible people were running the world, we could have all this sorted. If I'm honest, but then we don't know necessarily what it's like to run a world, so I could just be talking pie in the sky. But good thoughts.
Well, I'd give it a good crack. I'd give it a good
jolly
crack.
good go. We would. Right, here's a question for you.
Yes, I would.
Why do you think you personally have the ability to commune with animals, but the people around you don't?
Whoa, that's a big question. I actually came here to do this. That's the first reason. I came here to do it. So this was naturally going to be an ability. The reason Bo came down when he did was to kick me up the butt, because him and I had an arrangement before I came here that if I hadn't done it by a certain age, because I won't listen to a person, I'll only listen to an animal. He came down and spoke to me flat out. That's why it just came out of the blue, because he went, "Oh, okay, we've got to get this going." Right? So I was in my 40s. So anyway, he came down and did that and did that. So I'm just connected. So I'm one of those kids that I don't fit in with everybody. I don't do what everybody else does. I would rather be sitting and feeling the grass grow and feeling the atmosphere and looking at the stars. And I'm one of those people. I don't do the regular stuff. I just have no interest in it, never did have interest in it. And actually at 8, I realized I was going to be a missionary doing something as of service to this planet. I knew at 8. And I must admit, probably at 8, I thought it was probably going to be more around, I'm going to Africa and I'm going to help the orphans, but it turned out to be through animals. And look, all my life, I did play with animals, but even at 4 years of age, my mum found me, because we had a pet lamb, because my dad was in livestock. So we had this pet lamb, and I was out the front at 4 years of age on all fours, eating grass with the lamb, not feeding a lamb a bottle. I knew I was one of them. I felt like one of them. I feel more like one of them than the form I'm in. So that's why it's one of the reasons. But I've got to tell you that anybody can talk to animals, but if you don't believe you can, if you don't believe you can jump over a chair, you're gonna break your neck. If you believe you can jump over the chair and it's not ridiculously high, you will jump over it. Everybody was born with this ability, and that's why when you were up to the age of about 2 or 3, that's why when you were with animals and kids get on really well, they pat the cat and the cat does this and the dog does that. That's because they're communicating with each other. You've probably heard of the baby whisperers. They're talking about how babies if they're together, they'll communicate with each other, because this silent language is the natural way, and it's universal it's in every species. There is not a species that cannot use this communication. Much more sophisticated than if I go to France and they don't speak English, I can't understand them. If I go to Cambodia, whereas this language, everybody understands. It is just one language, all species. So, I guess if you look at it that way, anybody can do it. You just have to allow yourself to do it. And I know that there's going to be viewers that are going, I know that I've heard my dog or my cat or my horse. I know I have. And then they did this. And then I know there's going to be stories everywhere, because you can do it. And it is real. And you did hear them. Absolutely, you did. It's a natural way on this planet. I can speak to an animal as easy as I speak to a tree. I can talk to soil, plants.
Now that's a good one. I can talk to soil. That's going to be my title. It won't. How do you start a conversation with an animal, or do they start it?
Well, normally I start it. If it's something urgent, like when I was in Africa, I was in the one of the enclosures with a tawny eagle. So I opened the enclosure, went in, closed it. I was only a few steps in, and she said to me, I know you can hear me, and I want you to set me free. Everybody wants to be set free every time I meet someone.
Don't blame them.
Right? So I went, yeah, I can communicate with you. So in that instance, she had something urgent. She can tell by my energy and my aura, because they identify with me. When this first happened, I had dogs standing in the street staring at me, cats coming over. I had a lizard ended up on my shoulder. It was like Snow White, It was just animals everywhere.
Were you
staring
singing?
At me in the face.
Were you singing?
With a bird on my finger. Yeah. So it was quite remarkable. But yeah, but now, if I'm doing it for a client, I'll start the conversation. I'll say, listen, your mum wants to know what happens, or why do you do this? So, unless it's logical to me, there's few people that don't understand cats.
And when you start that conversation, are you going into, say, a cage, right? And then you say it in English out loud, or are you saying it in your mind to them?
So I'm saying it with my mind. So it's telepathic and intuitive. It's using things like clairvoyance, clairseeing, clairaudience, hearing, or clairsentience mostly. There's others, but there's clairsentience where you feel it. So you may feel the animal. It's like a pure knowing. It's almost like they didn't answer me. I just know what the answer is. There's that, it's like their energy shifts with your energy. But in telepathy, if it's an animal I don't know, they prefer it because perhaps they've had a trauma with a person with a loud voice. So if I go in there and I'm a bit loud, that could traumatize them. If I use my mind to their mind, and we're just directly using telepathy, then it's very unobtrusive. They're quite happy with it, and they don't have to fear me. And in fact, I don't have to go in any cages. I do everything distantly. I've got people from all over the world. So I don't have to, it has no bounds, no distance problems. You can do it anywhere. So this is great for animals because they don't have to deal with your physicality. In case they have a thing with women because you traumatize them, or a man with a black cat,
that's fair.
Something like that. So I will just telepathically ask them the question, and then virtually before you've finished asking the question, the answers come back. Literally. And then sometimes I'll sit down and say, listen, your mum's grieving you, because I do animals on the other side, the ones who've passed. And I'll say, your mum's grieving you, or your dad's grieving you. Do you have a message for them? And then they'll just speak to me, and I'll just write it all down. And sometimes it's 3 or 4 or 5 pages of a message to them about how they saw their life, that they might have been together before, what they need them to do now. They'll still be there, what they want them to do, all of these things. And it just flows like clockwork once you develop
and you
it.
know that won't be you doing 4 or 5 pages of text.
I would like to say
Excuse me.
that talented, but the stuff they write, that they dictate to me and I write, no. I sit there and I go, that was beautiful. It's making me cry. No, it did not come out of me. So, and they're all different. they're all different and some of them are just hilarious.
I
Like
want to get
stand-up.
into. I want to get into that comedy type of thing. So I got a question on that later for you. Here's the thing. How do animals react when they find out that you can hear them? I know you mentioned that the bird knew that you could, but obviously there's loads of people around that can't hear or speak to the animals. So how do they react when they know somebody can? Are they like surprised or happy? What?
Well, in domestic animals, it's not such a big deal because they're getting what the person's saying. The person just can't hear them.
Okay.
Right? So, but when I was in Africa again, we were walking out in the wild and these guides said, hey, there's a wild cheetah just there. And she was down in the grass and everyone was standing around and I telepathically said to her, you know, hi, my name's Trisha, blah, blah, blah. And she went, are you talking to me? That's what she said. Are you talking to me? And I went, oh, yes, I am. And she said, I've never had a human talk to me before. So it was a shock to her. And I said, do you mind me? She said, no, as long as you keep your distance. I said, I will be. I said, but would you mind, you're so beautiful, would you mind turning around so I could get a photo of your face? And she turned around. And this has
At that
happened for me
moment.
at the zoo. It's right at that moment she turned around. And I've done it when we were in a vehicle there was at night and it was pitch black and we could hear, there was 3 rhinos and we could hear them. And I asked them to come over to the vehicle and they came right over and were right around the vehicle. So they're not going to do everything you ask them, but if they feel like doing it, then they'll do it. So that's what I mean. You know, the wild animals were intrigued by it because they haven't had it before. But the domestic animals go sort of, thank God, because I've been trying to tell my dad this and he doesn't get it. Can you tell him? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So they enjoy the fact that they're going to get a chance to have a choice and a voice. So, yeah.
You sound like a really good person to go on a safari with, you know?
The reason I'm laughing, I've got to tell you the story about the 3 rhinos that I just told you. What happened there was, and the same with the cheetah. So what happened was that night that we went on that drive, the only other people in the vehicle other than the one guide was a newlyweds, right? So these newlyweds had come from England and he was a go-getter. He was a thrill seeker. He was going to go to somewhere down in Cape Town and get in the cage with the white pointers and all of that sort of stuff, you know. Anyway, we'd been on a safari that day and some lions came really close to the vehicle and I was hanging out the side getting the perfect photos and she was hyperventilating, right? So she was hyperventilating because she's going, the lions are going to jump in, they're going to jump in. The guy's going, no, they won't, just relax. Anyway, that night, she's trying to do it because she's just married this thrill seeker guy and we're out in pitch black. I'm hearing 3 rhinos and I'm going, I really want them to come over, but this lady's probably going to really be really nervous. So I'm sorry. I said, to hell with the lady. And I asked the rhinos, they came over and above their snorting, even though there's 3 big rhinos there, above the snorting, you could hear.
Oh, of her, yeah.
Ventilated. So that's why, yeah. So anyway, the next day when we went to see that cheetah that turned around, she didn't come because she just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So I went with her husband, her new husband.
And he got all the amazing photos, no doubt, with you.
Yeah.
The bird that was in the cage that wanted you to set it free. Can you conclude that story for us, please?
Yes. So I said to her, I am not in charge. She said, I need you to do what you can. And I said, okay. So this was at a rehab centre in the top of South Africa in the Timbavati region. And I went to the guy, Brian, who was running the centre, and I told him about her. And he said, yes, she hurt her wing. And he said, that's why her cage is all covered in because she kept trying to get out and she was re-damaging her wing. So we are looking for a place to allow her to go free, but she's a tawny eagle. And they have like, I think he said 80 Ks or 100 K by 100 K kind of square thing where it's already got 2 tawny eagles in there. You don't want to put her in there. because I'll kill her, right?
Mm.
So he said, we're just waiting on word because the scouts are looking to find an area where there's no other tawny eagles. So I went, okay, so we're on it. He said, yeah, I'm on it. And so I went back to her, and this is where I had a dilemma, because I told her the outcome and she said to me, I'll take my chances.
Interesting.
So now I had a moral dilemma. Is it right for us to choose that she doesn't want to get killed? We've just rescued her and rah, rah, rah. Or do we put her out there and go, no, because her freedom means more to her and she'll deal with it? And she could be a ninja eagle. We don't know. She might throttle the lot of them and go, oh, you're a bunch of wusses, But, so anyway, I went and told Brian what she said, and he said, okay, we have to really prioritize this now. She goes to the top of the list. So that's what they were looking for when I left. He said, don't worry, she will be released. He said, we need the enclosures. We have to release them, But he said, we try to do it safely because we've taken such good care of her. She was very strong, and she was very strong-willed. She reminded me a bit of me, actually. Yeah, that's something I'd say. I'll take my chances, So it was interesting. And he said, she's not been a problem from the beginning, but he said, we've known right from the beginning, even her injury, she was get her in, get her out. She's not a bird that was going to adapt at all. She had no intention. So we've known about this, So there's something about wild animals that is so different. Now, not so much this tawny eagle, because she'd been there a while, but they brought in this leopard. A farmer was going to shoot this leopard, so they quickly went out, darted it, brought it back in. They were going to keep it in an enclosure for 4 to 5 months, so forget its territory and take it to new territory. Otherwise, the farmer will still shoot it. So I didn't know they just brought it in. I was cleaning around the area. It had a tarp down, and I went, oh, I wonder what that tarp's doing there. And as I looked under the tarp, that leopard and my eyes met, and I could hear this sound. I can't even describe it. It was like that, but you could feel it. It was almost like the dust was coming off it. And I've never experienced energy like it. That is a true wild. And I just remember not staring at him anymore, moving away and going, I'll leave you in peace. I didn't know he was in there. So I went and spoke to Brian about it, and he said, yeah. He said, that was a one we just had to go and get. Anyway, it was about a week and a half later that he decided they put him in a vehicle, and then they just took off for a day, maybe 2 days, and took him far, far away, because they realized he was going to die in captivity because he just wouldn't eat. He just wouldn't eat.
Too traumatizing, probably, yeah.
Yeah. It was too traumatic for him. He just needed to be free. And this was what I felt from him. It was lowering his masculinity. He was being conquered, and he didn't like it.
No, I don't believe it.
How dare you just lock me up? And I did explain to him why. And he again had this attitude, I will look after myself. I went, wow, these African animals are like, yeah, so because I hadn't dealt with it's not the same as dealing with zoo animals. Zoo animals are not, they are wild to a degree, but they've been domesticated. They're a different energy. We're talking about actual wild animals. They're different. And the energy of them is different, and they want to make their own decisions. They don't want humans making them for, and I don't blame them. And that's why I'm an advocate for that, that we need to really look after our wild animals.
We need to back
in
off.
The way they want to be.
Because it comes across as interference, even though it's altruistic reasons why we're helping. But from their perspective, it's interference, isn't it?
Yeah. And these male leopards and lions, they're massive animals, and they're big guys. And I remember following them one night, which I think was really stupid. That's what they do over there, unfortunately. But they follow them around when they're trying to hunt. And it was just awesome. Have you heard lions go off? They're raw. Have you heard, like at the zoo and things like this? Is full on between the 2 females at the front and 1 male at the back. And he's telling them, and they're telling. They can use the telepathy silent language as well, but they're also doing it for predators. like leopards and anything going after their prey. They're using it for many reasons. So there's just something special about wild animals. And students that I've had said they've noticed the difference in the energy. It's a very different energy. So we kind of crush animals by putting them in zoos.
Here's a question for you, and you're right on that, by the way. Obviously, we can cross species communicate. You can with lions, say. Can lions communicate with cheetahs in the same way they can communicate with their own lions?
Okay, I'll answer that with a question. Like, yes, they can, but why would they?
I don't know. But what I was getting at is it like a direct
They
transmission
can,
from
they
me to you,
can,
or is
but
it?
no, everyone can communicate with everybody. So sometimes there's a group soul as well. So this is an individual essence, and then there's animals that work in a group thing. So when you get a whole herd of giraffe, they've chosen not to be. They want to work as a group, right?
Okay.
So they can all communicate with each other should the need arise. So a lion who feels superior, like he really is the king of the jungle if you talk to lions, and as they're equal in domestic, Siamese cats, just saying. So Siamese think they're superior to all other domestic cats. They think they're the top of the range. So lions do think that, and they wouldn't be caught dead talking to a cheetah. However, people will say, but haven't you seen when a baby cheetah got adopted by a lion, or, yes, should the need be, right? Then they will communicate. But if there's no need, no, they won't, because they don't small talk. They only talk when there's a reason. They only communicate when they need to be, because don't forget, animals have a different communication as well. They are in alliance with the land, with the planet, with consciousness, with the network, with the universe. They're all about that. Why do you think fish can, salmon swim up here and they can get through even if humans put other obstacles there, they can still get, because they have this innate ability of connecting with the planet. They can navigate. Birds, they have, I think, way amazing gifts than we have. And they can be born and get up on their feet within a half hour, sometimes a few minutes. We're like a baby for how long?
Well, it took me 24 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And me probably about the same. So do you know what I mean? So it's if the need should arise, they will all come together and they will do these things, but they're in alignment with the planet. So they don't need a lot of talk because they are governed by the stars, by the wind, by this, by that. They have a whole different guidance system. As I said, to people, I had two dogs, and I said, if I ever got lost in the forest, I definitely want to go with that dog, because that dog knows
No stuff.
instinctual. The other one goes, no, you'll have to keep me warm, find me water, get me food.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game. It's a different ball game. But when you've worked on the land with these animals, like when I was out in Africa for weeks, right? Weeks, I remember sitting on the land first thing in the morning, and I could hear the planet. I could hear its heartbeat. I could hear it breathe. I can't tell you. The smells. I could pick up something that was so far away. I guess how the trackers do it, but this is what comes when you are away from all stimulation. And then after all those weeks, I had to fly to a city to then be taken by vehicle to another remote place. I got into that airport and had a full-blown panic attack. And I remember running out of the airport, seeing the driver going, quick, quick, throwing my bag in and going, get me out of here, get me out of here. And he took off, out into the wild. I realized then how terrifying that must be for my body, for my energy and everything, to be constantly in this stimulation. Because when you go out and just be on the land for a period of time, you will change. You will have this ability. You will be able to connect with everything. You are just too overstimulated, and that's all that's stopping everybody else.
I completely agree. I think it's one of the biggest cleanser of the soul, if you want to call it that, is to get out in nature. Years ago, right, I went through an anxiety period in my life, and I think it was for a learning reason. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. But to get me out of that scenario, I had to get out into nature, listening to my favorite music, but connecting, away from everything. And then that heals you completely. You are right. It's the bombarding of essentially crap that we've created that keeps us away from that connection. And so anyone listening to this who's going through any depression or anxiety or anything like that, trust me, get out into nature. It works.
Yeah, it does work. So back in the 90s, I had an anxiety issue where I had panic attacks, and I was actually ending up in hospital every 5 days on an ECG machine, right? And I just went, hey, I've just got to stop this. And I just completely turned things around and got back in touch with reality of myself and the land and everything else, and never had another one. Completely didn't have medication, didn't have all of that, just got out into nature quite now. That's why people ask me out and I go, oh, 20 minutes, half an hour tops. No, not, oh, let's go hear a band. Let's not.
Yeah.
I can't, it's just, and I think, why do you want to go there with somebody? Because you could just stick headphones on and play the music and blow your head off. I mean, I just don't see the point of it, because you're not talking with anyone. You're screaming above everything. I love serenity. I want to surround myself with nature. I look out here and I've got trees, and there's a little water thing there I put for the birds, and I get these honey eaters that come and have a dip in there. And, the spiders talk to me. If I'm ever going to go clean my patio, I tell them for 3 days before, you've got to get out, guys, in case I don't see you, right? They leave while I hose everything down, and they come back. Like that, it's like living in harmony with everything. I just can't stand, like, I have to work on a computer, and it just, the cat Maddie, because she passed last year, she was 22 years old, but who's Bo's sister. And she taught me everything I knew. After an hour and a half on your computer, you need to get the hell away from it and have a big break. She used to come in and be, this is why cats come in and they get around, and they're trying to distract you. They're trying to say, get away from this thing. Your aura's gone weird, really weird. And then she'll put her back foot out and hit my escape button. I had to save everything all the time. I was hitting the save button because she'd come in and escape out of it, and then that was the end of that. That was done. So then I'd go out. I even had 11 kookaburras come when I was over east, sitting right in front of that window, laughing, and they got louder and louder until I left my computer, went out the back with a cup of tea and sat there. They flew out the back and they sat with me. Like, nature is trying to tell you, we're not meant to have this. And honestly, it's just too much. I just get off and I just go for a walk in nature, and oh, thank God for that. I would actually, if I didn't have to be here, I'd just like to go and live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, Tiff and I always say that we want to do that. Buy loads of land, and loads of land around us so no one can build on it, and then rewild it, that sort of thing, That would be nice.
And I think that's what we need to do, but we can't do that because if everybody did that, we'd be taking up too much of a footprint, everywhere. But the whole idea is to live off the grid and to not cause a problem.
What if me and you arranged some sort of killing spree where we got rid of everyone and then we had the land? Would that work?
Yeah, that might work. Yeah. Well, we might talk about that after the show.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I know, right? And look, I'm always amazed how small your country is and how many people you fit in it. But Australia feels that way because we've got a lot of uninhabitable. We've got a big desert across the middle, So we're all sort of on the outside. But people who come here just laugh when we, like Perth people. I don't know, because your country is quite small, you probably have a similar outlook to us. But when you're in Sydney, because of the traffic and everything else, and it's a bit spaced out, if you've got to travel 45 minutes to somewhere or an hour, that's pretty usual. In Perth, we just go, oh, I don't know, it's a bit far. My friend from Sydney goes, how far? No, it's far. How far? It's 25 minutes.
I'm the
So,
same. I want close.
yeah,
Close.
I
I
want
don't do this
close.
hour drive in malarkey. No.
Not unless you're in the country, then I'm happy to do it,
Yeah, that's different.
I'm happy to go for hours and hours. But I just think if we all got back to nature, so that's the sort of thing I'm working on at the moment is with a couple of project managers. I'm trying to work out a program that can be put into preschool and schools, because that the majority of our belief system and how we view things is between 0 and 7 years of age, because it's theta brain.
Yeah.
That's where they're like a sponge, right? And that's where we developed all our, I call them bad habits. Because and that's why it follows down through the generations, because whatever that person believed instilled it in that child, and then it got instilled in another child, and, so on and so on. So I feel that if we went back to the old way of doing things, we went back to nature, we got kids learning how to love themselves and to be with themselves and be in silence. Like, for instance, we won't go into COVID because that's another show. But when we were in lockdown, I loved it. Personally,
And me.
I love, and then all the animals I was speaking to were loving it, and I was loving it. And the planet. I'd look outside and there was no cars, and I was going, "Oh my God, this is my dream come true." Anyway, and then you've got all these people around the world, and I'm not taking suicides and anything lightly. I just want to make that known. But I feel like this is who we've become as humans. That we can't sit on our own. We have to be stimulated. We have to be on a phone. We have to have a computer. We have to have something entertaining us. You'll see at the shopping centres people walking around with trolleys and the kids are on devices. We never had that. We just walked around and we looked at and we talked to people, and we had to be and like what I've noticed is that the children don't want to speak to you. They don't know how to relate. Even teenagers don't know how to relate anymore. We had to relate because we didn't have a text. We couldn't text someone. We had to say it, right? So we've actually gone backwards. People think this technological thing is a great thing. It's actually crippled us. And the sooner we start reverting back, and especially the children, where the governments are now trying to restrict the mobile phones for kids, I'm all for it. I just think, like, for instance, Steiner's and Montessori schools here, they don't have any technology. They do it all by writing, just like we used to. Because I know from my channeling that I can't use a laptop with the animal speaking to me. It doesn't come out. Like, as soon as I start in the technology, it just stops. As soon as I get the pen, because the energy is flowing through me, it's consciousness to consciousness. It's not an inanimate with the thing coming at you. So it works. So you write, and that's why kids need to go back to that and not putting everything on iPads and technology. And they're saying now that they're ruining their retinas, their eyesight's really bad. Everyone, so kids are getting RSI from
I got a really massive thumb. I don't, no, I don't. I don't like it myself.
Develop it. Yeah.
Do you know what? I resisted having a mobile phone for probably 10, 15 years. And then I had to get one for work, and I kind of wish I never did, but let's keep away from it.
I'd love, if I could run a business without any of this stuff, I would. But you can't. You couldn't have a business. Even with COVID, since COVID, everything's gone online. So we don't do much in person now. And there's reasons for it as well. It's much more expensive to hire venues and things like that. And economies have changed. But I try to do as much as I can the normal way. And I've got a friend who's 35, and she's she's brought up with it, her phone. And then I said to her, "Do you know where my phone is?" She goes, "Yeah, it's in my back pocket because you left it over there." Because I don't cut like half the time, every time I'm with her, I'm going, "Have you seen my phone?" "Yes, it's on the such and such," because I'm not, has to be with me. I have to be looking at it, and like it just does my head in.
Do you know that she's actually been arrested quite a number of times for stealing people's phones? That friend of yours.
Yes. You know what? She has disappeared and gone off the radar for quite a few times. You're probably right there. Yeah.
Come back with some new arm tattoos of gang members on them, that sort of thing. Right, you alluded to this earlier. How, to the best of your knowledge, does this gift work scientifically?
Yeah, well, scientifically, and there's been quite a bit of research on it. Have you heard of Dr. Rupert Sheldrake?
I have, yeah.
He's one of the well-known ones. There's others, and through various means. But telepathy is not something that was invented in animal communication. We've known about it for a long time. So basically, it's a mind-to-mind communication. And as I said, instead of using your mouth, if you've got your own animals and you're connected, you can. I verbally spoke to my animals and they telepathically answered. So you're using telepathy if you want to ask questions, if you want to find something specific out, an opinion or what they directly need. As for the clairsentience, that can also be used in your medical intuitive because you can feel what's in their body. It's about becoming aware, becoming sensitive to energies and to what you see. It's like seeing beyond the five senses. We have got a sixth sense. So we are, for every other purpose, we're using our sixth sense. So telepathic is what I would ask the question with. I get it back through pictures, sometimes videos, sometimes videos. They'll give me a video because a still picture won't cut it, Then I'll hear it, the word. They'll just say the word, or a pure knowing. So the more developed you get a lot more pure knowing of just knowing how it is, knowing what it's like for that individual. It develops. But as I said, initially, a lot of communicators will hear the voice of the animal.
So you get to do all of them. You hear the voices and see all the pictures and videos.
Well, I don't hear the voice as much anymore because I just do it too fluently now. There's no time for that. Yeah, there's no time for that.
Is it a hierarchy where, like, voices is the step one, novice level, pictures step two, videos knowing?
The pictures and the videos and the words, it depends on the animal. So I'm a very visual person, so I get a lot of mine in visuals, right? If the animal is also very visual, they'll send a lot of pictures. If they're not, if they're more audible, then they'll send it via audible. So it depends how that comes, and it comes in all different ways. So I might be having one conversation with an animal and it can come in the three different forms. I can be talking to a horse, but then I'll go, oh God, I've got a really bad pain there. And the horse sometimes turns around and will show me their hip at that time.
I see.
And they're trying to say that's what it feels like. And as soon as you've acknowledged that it's theirs, it disappears. It just disappears like that. That's how you know, because it doesn't stay. You've got this sharp pain, then all of a sudden you've got nothing, right? So you know when it's not yours and when it is, and it's just a different way of sensing and expanding your awareness of what there really is. The five senses are very basic compared to this sense.
How much do you think interpretation plays a part? Like, so say if a dog, as an example, sends you a picture in your mind of a color, I'm just making that up. You have to interpret that as, what do you want? You want to go for a walk, or do you need a new color? If you got it wrong, if you interpret it incorrectly, would they then send you a different picture to say, no, I mean this? Is it that sort of thing?
Yeah, so many things can happen. So let's use that example. They send you a collar, and so what you can do is you're showing me a collar. Do you want a collar? Do you want a different collar? And they can answer each time. You can ask them a series of questions. If not, sometimes then if you go, I'm not sure what you mean by the collar, they will show me them wearing it, or a person buying it, or they'll show me something pertaining to that, so that I get a clearer picture of what that is. So I can ask more questions, or I can get a thing, or I've sometimes been saying it to the person, oh, your dog's showing me this, and I believe it's this. And then you'll hear the dog say, no, it's the other one. I went, sorry, not that one. He wants a thinner one. They'll tell you, they'll correct you. Yeah, that's as you develop it. So you've got to imagine you've got different ranges of people. You would have had people on your show, you would have talked to people. There's psychics and psychics. There's some that are more advanced than others. You have to do work on yourself. So for my interpretation and how I'm bringing it through, to get accurate, you have to do the work. One, you have to be doing this as a way of life, which to me, it's just fluent. It's just way of life. But you also have to get rid of your filters. You can't have filters about things. Oh, I don't like when somebody brings me a horse and they put that on it because it's wrong. And you have to let all that go and just hear the animal, because sometimes there's a lesson in it and there's a reason why that person is doing it, because they're going to learn something from it. It's not up to you to make a judgment. What you are is a translator. So you need to put all of that aside and just say, what is that animal asking me, or what do they wish me to do? I'm merely a message giver. I'm not here to make a judgment call on it. And then, yes, I will help the person. If the person says, what can I do about that? Then I'll give them, from my experience. But the actual message has to be the message. And so you need to develop that interpretation. So I'm certifying a lot of people at the moment. I've got a big certification program so that we can get very advanced communicators out there, not people who have just done like a weekend and, think they're an expert. So a lot of my, certification students are saying, so how do we tell whether it's symbolic or not? Because sometimes it's symbolic, so they'll use something in your memory banks, So in other words, there's a couple of ways of looking at it. One of the students I was asking this dog a few questions, and I just got shown this black and white like floor tiles. I said, yeah, well, that the clearest thing for you in black and white was the floor tiles. So you can ask the animal, but it can also mean my personality is very black and white, right? Or I see everything not in black and white, meaning the color, because they actually see color, even though scientists don't realize that, but they do. And so that my person is very black and white. I want them to be a little bit more gray. They might show you some gray. I want them to be a little bit more like, not make everything it has to be that way because I'm a dog, So there's sort of other interpretations. I've had tons of students in a room put up one photo, because we can connect by photograph, just connecting with the essence. So I'll put up a photograph and I'll ask a question and people have to write it down. Then I'll get them to hand it in. They will all have answered the same way. Majority. There might be 5%, 3% that are incorrect, but they will all use different words because it's their vocabulary. So when somebody is happy, I might say happy. You might say joyful. You might say glad. Somebody else might, but it all means the same thing. The dog is happy. The dog is joyful. The dog is glad. The dog is, So and then I had this person that wanted to know they had a mother dog that had 4 puppies, and they said, we've all got little colored collars on them in the photos. Could you tell me which one the mother wants to keep? Because I can't keep all of them. What a hard thing to do to ask a mother dog in the first place.
And that's Sophie's choice, isn't it? That's what.
We won't go down that road.
Yeah.
So I asked the students that were in the room that time, and we got 100% pink. And the little puppy had the pink on. 100% got pink. Nobody spoke to anybody. They just wrote it down. I collected it, and they were all pink.
And choice was made. Yeah.
The choice was made, but you can see how these people were all of different levels and whatever else, that they will all get a very similar thing if they're really speaking to the animal. And that's why you've got to get over yourself and push all your stuff aside and just listen and be quiet. And when you're quiet and there's nothing going on in your mind, well, then when the animal speaks, it's the animal, because there's nothing else going on in there.
Is it? I didn't have this question written down, but I want to ask it now because we were going into it. But like I was talking about the dog and the collar a second ago.
Yeah.
That dog, domesticated dog, has a concept of collar. If you asked a wild dog, would they ever show you a collar? Can they show you concepts that they wouldn't naturally be aware of in the wild, is what I'm trying to get at.
They could, because they're connected to all there is, but you won't get it purely because an animal is only going to show you or speak of something that is relevant to them.
Okay.
So a dog might show you a ball or a bone or whatever. A cat's not going to show you that. A cat's going to show you something relevant to their form. They've come in that form and they will stay fairly relevant to it. There is a soul essence where they can go into a much higher degree of telling me what the person has come here for, what their job is with them, and there's a much, but we're talking about the collar or the this or the that. You know, a wild animal has no, wouldn't even enter, like that leopard, don't even mention a collar. If I gave him a vision of having a collar around its neck, it probably would have gone for me, you know.
Yeah, you'd be
So
under the tarp. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm not using that. But yeah, so it's all relevant to the species or the form they've come in. That's been my experience anyway. There might be other communicators out there that have had a different experience, but that's been my experience, you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would have expected that answer, but I just wondered in case you never know.
Yeah.
Do animal obviously I think you said this earlier. My question is, do animals have a sense of humor? And if so, what's the funniest thing an animal has said to you?
Oh, I think there's a racehorse said to me, I said, your person wants to know why you're not winning races. First of all, do you want to win? Do you like winning? Because she doesn't want to force you to do something. And this horse said, oh, yes, I love winning. I love winning. I love going across finishing, he said, and then they all come to their feet. The humans adore me. They, you know, and so he likes the humans all over him, you know. And then he said, and I love when she runs out and she hugs me. And I said, yeah, so why aren't you winning? And he said, because the jockey they're giving me is a moron. Total. And I went, okay, that's not going to be easy. So what do you want me to do? And he said, I need the proper jockey. I said, well, can you explain? And he explained one. I mentioned it to the person. She seemed to know who it is. So I said, show the horse the day before, this jockey. The next day, he won a $300,000 race.
Get
And he hadn't been winning for ages, right? So we changed it. But one of the funny things in the room, like some of them are saying, oh, I need to talk to my mum about the elephant in the room, even though I'm not an elephant. Like they'll just come out with just quotes, funny things. Like sometimes I just laugh. They're a character. They think it's joyful. I'll say, well, what about that? And he goes, well, what do you think? Like they'll just slam you with something, and you kind of go, well, I don't know. I haven't given it much thought. He goes, well, maybe you need to give it some thought. Well, okay, I'll give it some thought. So they're just, there's so much personality from every animal, you know, like you know, especially cats. You know, like look, your mum's a little bit upset because you've been peeing outside of the kitty litter, right? Yes. Yes. So can you tell me why? Because what's the problem with that? Well, it leaves an odor. He goes, yes, and isn't it wonderful?
Oh, I see.
I smell so good. What do you mean my mum's upset? She doesn't like my smell. How can you be serious? That's what well, yeah, oh. So then I've said to the lady, you know, you can't understand why you don't like his smell. And she goes, well, I love him, but it's cat. I said, he is putting it around because he's seen another cat and he thinks, you know, you'll love it if he puts it around. So it's just a different concept. And then you start thinking, wow, maybe I need to look a bit differently, even with other people. Maybe I'm getting too worried about the wrong things. Like, who said that that smells better than that smell? Who said that that's more attractive than that? Who said that that color's better than that color? Like, it starts to get you thinking, because animals think in pure form. They don't have judgments. They don't have, you know, they don't, apart from the moron thing, that was one of the few, but generally they don't say, oh, my mum's really bad, or she did this, or he did that, or they just say, I'd rather not talk about it. They don't like showing their previous trauma because they don't want to hurt you. They don't want you to have to see something yucky. They don't want you to do that. And even when they're going to, you know, yeah.
A sly aside from the humor side of things, do they ever swear?
I feel like the energy is of swearing, but they might not say the actual word. You know, so I don't think the horse necessarily said moron, but the energy of it was a moron. Right? So yeah. So my brain interpreted, oh, he's talking about the guys, you know, doesn't know what he's doing, you know? So yeah, but it came out very clear. So, you know, it's usually the energy of it that that will come out. So swearing, yeah, it comes close. Although you've got to be kidding. Like it's just their personalities, as if you're talking to a person. They're all very, because, well, let's talk about it. What is an animal as opposed to a human? Why did they come in human form? Why does somebody come in animal form? What's the difference? Well, the animals said it's a level of vibration. Animals are very high vibration, right? They're purest. That's why they're so unconditional and non-judgmental. And also they come here and don't have their memory wiped. They remember where they're from and what they're doing here, right?
I like the sounds of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
So
you've said something there.
they come in.
They're very pure.
Yeah.
Does that mean in a way that we're impure, but we are on a journey to becoming pure? And if that's the case, does that mean we're on a journey to becoming animals?
No. Well, yes, in a way, yes. But we can, okay. They talk about we are in a different spacesuit. So my understanding, and you probably have had this discussion with others, and we probably all maybe don't agree, or maybe we do. My understanding is I've been an animal before, right? But I couldn't do what I've come to do as an animal. It wasn't going to work. So I'm not happy to be here in this form. I'm telling you right now, I'll give you the tip. I would much rather, I need to go back to the form I'm more comfortable in.
Which was what? I have to ask.
Oh, look, I haven't only been on this planet, but on this planet, yeah, I've been mostly wild animals, not domestic. I've just been wild. I've just been on the plains and feeling the energy, and like that's where I'm happiest. I know that I'm quite wild, and in this form, and my animals have said to me, but you had to come in this form, because I'm usually, when we're in this form, we're learning something. We're on a journey to somewhere. We can be on a journey of higher enlightenment, wherever your level is. We're all different levels. But we're all here for different reasons. Some here are here just to experience this earth plane. Some want to go at a slow rate and don't particularly want to excel. I'm very competitive, so it doesn't surprise me that I'm doing this. I want to get in and get it done and rise up and whatever else. But yeah, so the form is very important, because we have to choose a form depending on what we've come here for. Depending on what we've done and what your belief is and what you've done so far. I don't believe we're like all these humans we're not. We're from other places. There are some that are a bit more earthly, right, here, but there's a lot that have come galactic-wise and have come here, and that's why we have so many different beliefs and lineages, and because we're not from the same places.
So our soul origin is not necessarily the same place.
No.
Which then branches nicely into this question. Has any pet ever mentioned alien contact to you?
Well, no, because they see me as an alien. I see them as an alien, because alien is foreign to whatever is foreign to where you are. I'm not from here. I'm definitely not. And I don't relish really being here. I do, but with my mission, but not with anything else. But I know that they are from other places, other dimensions, and because that's why they're so pure. That's why their level of forgiveness and their unconditional love is so much higher than in our form. And there are some in our form, but they are something else. We're talking of, I guess I'm not religious, but we're probably talking, the Dalai Lamas and the ones who just walk the plains and are able to be of a bit of an angelic sort of level of vibration. So I classify it as levels of vibration. Everyone is different vibrations down here. That's why you get people who are doing certain things and other people who would never do that. It's just different vibrations, different learning curves. But we are definitely learning as humans, because the animals have told me they are specifically here, the domestic, not the wild, the domestic are specifically here to work with us. They've specifically come here. They have some galactic stuff to do. They have some stuff, a little bit of their own stuff to do, but the majority of it is to work with us and show us the way. And that's why they come into our lives. That's why they say, oh, animals pick us. Of course they do. But we've already predestined this anyway. And so they select us and they work with us for a period of time, and they leave when it's done. They're out of here. And that's why it's at different ages. And that's also why you'll hear people say, oh my God, I can't believe my cat came right at a time that blah, 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 blah. My dog came at a time that blah, 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 blah. That's why. And look what happened to me. I got all my animals in that way. The three cats, Maddie ended up with me from another unusual way. So, and then when I asked them, the three of them got me to go to Deb's house that day so I'd pick up Shay, because Shay's a reincarnation from a cat I had when I was 19. They all had arranged it. That's why I had things were coming out of my mouth, and I'm saying to my no, I have to go. Why? I don't know why. And I didn't know why, but they were driving me to go there because I needed to get Shay, for that to happen, for then that to happen, for then that to happen, and me to end up as a communicator. They had it banned, you know.
Which tells you there's a cosmic plan, or a
yes,
spiritual
it's
plan.
It's definitely a cosmic plan. And Bo said to me, I said, but why did you have to? I understand you came here for that reason, my plan, but why did you have to die? You could have just spoken to me. And he goes, no, it's not how your form works. And I went, what do you mean? He goes, you would have gone back to your comfort zone, because I would have been there now. You would have heard me and you would have gone, oh, maybe it was just nothing. But he said, the reason you're doing it is in the honor, because you couldn't get over me. That's what we had to create. And he said, if you bummed it, if you bummed it, I would have come down, done it again and again and again until you went, aha, the lights come on. He said, I would have just kept going. Thankfully, you picked it up the first time. So that's what they do. We get these moments, but whether we see them and we have to wait for the next one, then that's the thing.
That's it. It's a big thing on my channel. I'm well into the nudge theory, where something happens on purpose and it's just the recognition of that nudge and then taking action appropriately. Big thing.
Yes.
What level of animal does this go down to? I think you said earlier you talked to even insects and spiders and stuff. So where does it stop? Where's the lowest it can go?
Look, you can communicate with anything. I've communicated with cancer cells.
Right, tell me the story of that, because that sounds weird. Go on.
Yeah. So I was healing somebody with cancer and it was going quite well, but then I wanted to find the core of the issue. So I communicated with the cancer cells, and the cancer cells were telling me why it's occurring in that person. And then I had to put it to the person, and I knew this person well, they were very close. And she just said, I'm just not prepared to work through that. And she passed.
Was that the plan for her?
She had a plan, and she could have perhaps taken another exit point, but she didn't want to go through that emotion to work through that. And you know how there's all this rewiring of the brain now, changing your belief system. At the time, I didn't know about, I work with that now all the time. But at the time, the cancer cells were telling me there's a switch in her brain and she needs to turn it on. She's not, she's down the wrong path. And they were describing it to me and what she needed to do. And she just said, I just can't do it. I just don't have the strength to do it. So she allowed herself over the next few months to pass. But the cancer cells were telling me quite clearly what needed to be done. So, you know, but yeah, but in the animal kingdom, am I talking to ants and
yeah, let's go with ants.
Yes. Yeah. I've asked ants if they would move, or we cut a deal. You can cut deals. I've asked, you know, I've talked to obviously spiders, and I've talked to, you know, dragonflies, everything. And like it's quite sad, but there was I was cleaning my patio, and there was a beautiful big pot I've got like elephants, and there was just this crusty thing on there, and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just some dirt that had accumulated there. So I got the high pressure cleaner and I kind of cleaned it off, and as it fell down, there were these little long larvae things in there, but they were all dead. So I didn't know if I had done it or whether they were just already, you know, whatever. And I went, oh God, I feel sick now. And so anyway, the next day I was in the kitchen, and it was right outside the window. I can see it from the sink. And I was doing this thing, and this wasp came along, and there was still a remnant of the sandy thing on the pot. and it went there and it was probing and it was going up and down. And I went, oh no, oh no. And then it must have seen one of the larvae just through the crack, and it went down and picked it up in its legs and had it elongated and was flying with it and came up to the window and showed me.
Look
Oh,
what you did, you murderer. Yeah.
I said, I am so sorry. I didn't know. And I've just never removed another one after that. And it just said, these were my babies. This was my baby. And I went, oh my God, how many senseless things do we do without giving everything consideration just because they're an insect, because they're a wasp or they're a flying thing I don't like? How dare we? How dare we take, that everything matters and everything has a baby and they have a right to a baby just like we do, just because it's not convenient. I teach my students there's no such thing as a weed. What is a weed? What's a weed? It's a weed is a plant you don't like there, because a weed is a plant.
There's loads of them in our gravel driveway.
Yeah, I don't like it there. It's not I'm not saying don't pull, I'm just saying have gratification for that plant because it has a right, because apparently I did a bit of research on this when I was doing the module on the plant kingdom, and I remember that they were saying that a lot of the weeds that we throw out now were used for animals, and they are high in nutrients. They used to use them to as compost, and they also used to use them as fodder for their animals. And their animals thrive on it. And one of my dogs used to love a particular weed. She'd go and eat it. Even if we were out on a walk, she'd look for it. And she said, this is like gold. And I went, really? She went, yes. And I went, oh my God, I didn't realize. And she said, it is so good for the gut. Like, we are just so mindless about everything. And I just go, this just has to be told, this story. We have to get back to reality. We have to get back to caring, whether it's a wasp, an ant, a lion, a person. To me, they're all the same. People, and again, I'm not saying this in a flippant way. Losing a child, everybody makes a big deal over it, but nobody makes a big deal. Like, for instance, we've just had a big car crash here in Australia that killed a 5-year-old and has put a 12-year-old, I think, in critical. But the reason the car crash happened was because they collided with an emu. Nobody has said anything about what happened to the emu. I'm sorry, but that is a life. And we are flippantly saying it's just not worthy as a human. It is to me. Who do you think the planet can survive without us, but can't without animals? I'm just sitting there going, why are we not talking about that? Why are we not saying in a bushfire, oh, the homes that are lost, homes can be rebuilt. What about the kangaroos? What about the lizards? What about the snakes? All the creatures who couldn't get away, that were incinerated because they were too slow. Nobody talks about them. We're talking 10 million in one of our fires. They've estimated 10 million. And I'm going, nobody even talks about them. Only the wildlife rescue people, which I work very hard for when there's a fire here. I get burn creams and all sorts of stuff and take it over there and feed baby kangaroos and, So I just think it's a reality check for us on a serious note. But this is why I do what I do, because the world has to realize that if we cared about everything, if we got connected to everything and we did care about everything, not only would we be great people, we'd have a great planet. And there wouldn't be all this other nonsense with greed and crime and all of this things that people are doing things about, because we'd have no importance with it.
I'm on the same page as you. I just wish we could get to there. But, me and you can do our own small things, our steps on the way. But we're not the machine. We might just be a small cog in it.
But what if we put it in preschool and schools?
Yeah, I agree. That's education is key.
That can change the next generations.
Yes.
And that's why, if anybody out there is listening and wants to get on board with that and works in that kind of with children or anything else, because it's actually Scotland that's doing so much of the research into this and is trying to work even with Australia about the Indigenous, because the Indigenous are showing the children how to get back to the land. And like they were saying that they've been working in this way that I had these two little boys, and one of the boys said to the other boy, "You've got to put that rock back. You know, you promised the land, right? So everything goes back." Imagine if we did that in that age group. By the time they got out of high school, they would have a totally different concept, and it wouldn't be about mobile phones or being an influencer or an influencer of what. I sit here and I go, I see stuff on entertainment and I'm going, how is that helping the planet? How's that helping anybody but making you a lot of money? We should all be thinking about how we're helping. All my work is about how can I help this planet? How can I make all species feel safe? You know, how can we reconnect with ourselves and love ourselves again, because we're great people and we want to preserve everything. And, you know, I'll walk down the street and the pigeons are eating. People just walk through them, not me. I will walk around and say, sorry, because that is courtesy, and that is talking about who says you're more important. The humans did. Not the universe, not anything greater than what you are. We did. We are saying we're great. If we're so great, why is the world in a mess? We're not great.
And that's it, isn't it? The human ego has taken over, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm so on board with all you said there. And on that note, actually, in the description to this video will be a link to Trisha's site, so go and check all that out. I presume all your project work will be linked from there.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So go and check that out. If you want to get involved, please do so. For my girlfriend Tiff, can you talk about horse relationships and what you've discovered with them about horses? So any funny stories, anything?
Oh, horses are awesome. Okay. So horses are not actually domestic animals. Just want to put that out there. They are the bridge between wild and domestic. They never agreed to be domestic. Dogs and cats have, but horses never agreed. Neither did birds, and neither did snakes. All right. So to be in the domestic thing, they've never agreed to that. So horses have sort of, and they're a prey animal. So they're very different to dogs and cats, which are predators. Very different. And people need to understand that, because they need to be treated differently. And you also, I love the way Switzerland has adopted the plan that you can't just own one horse. You have to have a minimum of 2 horses, because you can't have a prey animal on its own. It's going to be worried all the time about a predator. So horses are amazing. And I've had the most blessed experiences. So I would run 10-day horse clinics, 10 days. And I was on a property from another lady who had 10 horses that always joined in. They were amazing. And then the people who came could bring their own horse as well. So we had horses there. What was really interesting is that we'd go and meditate with these horses. We'd go and form a circle out in a paddock, and the horses would come over. They're natural healers. They would come over and they would rest their muzzle on a person's head or at the back of their neck, and I'd open my eyes and the horse would tell me what they're doing for that person. If we had a master horse, he would come behind me and we would feel this electric energy go around the circle. People would actually pop out of their seats when it came to them. And it's incredible. Sometimes when we were going to sit in a round yard with a group of horses and I didn't know what to expect, I'd say, we've obviously got something to learn. What do you want to teach us? And I'd look out there and they'd be forming geometric patterns, the horses that were in the round yard. And when they were ready, they would all just separate and I'd go, okay, we can go in now. They had prepared the energy, because people had visions, and these horses were amazing. And so because I'm speaking at a big event next month, and I'm speaking on this subject, and then there's a whole lot of what I call regular 3D stuff that you're learning about your horse. But the bottom line is, and this is my thing, my bottom line is, the old saying about you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's what people don't understand. You can go buy a top horse. You can go buy the biggest show horse. You can buy an ex-Olympic. You can, whatever you want to do. But if you don't form a connection with that animal and you don't energetically gel, you will never get the best out of a horse. You just won't. because they're not domestic like a dog. They're not, they liken a bit more to cats actually. But horses, it's all about the relationship, because 99.9% of horses don't want to be ridden. They don't want to be ridden. Why would you? Get on my back and make me work? No, thanks. I'd rather do what I was meant to do, is explore, walk, graze, and mix with my herd. That's what they are. And we're trying to make them something they're not. So even when I've done talks at this big venue before, so I'll talk about fluent animal communication, fluent telepathic talk. And so the horse will come in, I get them like literally a minute before I start. They bring a horse in, a person comes with them so they can verify the facts, and then I'll start, talking to that horse, and that horse will give me information. One year, this horse walked in, and as they walked in, I said, yes, welcome, come in. It was a big Frisian. And I said to him telepathically, the crowd was there, and I said, welcome, welcome, come in. It's all about you. And he said, don't make it about me. I'm too sad. I've just lost my best friend. And I went, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I said to the lady, he tells me he's just lost his best friend. She started crying because obviously it was her horse as well. And so and then the whole crowd just goes quiet, And so we will do that, and then I'll get the crowd involved and tell them how to do it. This year I want to actually have the horse in the arena, and then I want the whole crowd, I'm going to walk them through an exercise, and I actually want them to get conversation from the horse, and then I'm going to get them to connect with their own horse and get them to actually get a message from their own horse during this arena. And then the next talk I do, which is the next day, it's all about energy. So your intent, if you're not you're with a prey animal, I remember when I was in Africa in that vehicle, as long as the guide I was sitting with at the back is relaxed, all is well. But this day that we came around the corner and we were pursued by 3 elephants, the elephants weren't aggressive. There was a circumstance around it. But we had to get away from these elephants because they saw us as blocking their path. The guide was nervous. He swore and he was scared. So what does that make us, right? Because an elephant's way bigger than us. We're now prey. So what happens with the horse is I show them intent. So if you're going to work with a horse, you need to be relaxed. You need to show them nothing's wrong. Everything's safe. I have good intent. And don't think for a minute that you can act relaxed, but be thinking things in your mind, because that horse can read that mind. That's why it already knows. That's why cats disappear before you get the carrier out for the vet, and why the dogs do something. And why horses can't be caught in the yard, because they know
see a picture of an injection, don't they?
Yeah. So it's all. So what happened one year is that the educator horse they were going to use, they couldn't use him. So they went and got a horse, a 3-year-old from the breed village, and they brought this horse in, and his name was Paddy. And he was very nervous. He wasn't used to the crowd, and he wasn't used to this and wasn't used to that. Anyway, I said, look, we make it easier for this horse. I want everybody in the audience. We're going to change our energy. And so I just got everybody to, stop being all heightened and stimulated. Just come down, deep breathe. Let's just get rid of all the chatter. Let's just, take it all down. He started to settle. And then I said, right, now I'm going to change the energy in this arena by changing me. And of course, the lady who he was with was going to change because she was matching me. So as I put my hand up and I said, right, I'm just going to lower my energy. And I said, it's going down and down. I'm feeling really relaxed now. And I got to about, around my face, this horse came out, pulled the person, and it circled me tightly twice and put its head over my shoulder. And everybody was gobsmacked, because this horse only a while before was all over the place. And this horse, and I said, can you see now how this horse prefers me to be? Imagine now if I was going to ride, or I was going to do something else, or I was just going to walk with him, he'd be quite happy to, because he feels safe with me. He's formed some relationship with me. If a horse is not happy and you're all over the place, do not try to get on your horse. It's a waste of time. And then I had a horse named Chicago who I just went up to him and I just said, let's relax together. And I put my hand up, but I didn't put it on him. And I just put warm energy out my hand, and this horse just dropped his head and went to sleep immediately. Lip dropped, everything. And he just, it was within seconds. And people just went, whoa. And I said, can you see the effect you have on a horse? So if you're all over the place, you're stressed, you're worried, you're anxious, excuse me, am I going to be able to do this? Well, by the time you get on that horse, you've just stressed your horse out to the max. And then he gets, or she gets, called dangerous because the horse bucks you off because you've just stressed them out to the max. And they're supposed to, I used to have all these people come for consults at these big competitions and say, my horse is really nervous. And I went, actually, your horse tells me it's not them that's nervous, it's you. And you're making them nervous. How about we work on you? Person came in the next day and said, wow, that was like a different competition. I went, see? So the horse often gets the blame, but it's the person. So
the key then to all of this is, like you said, be amazingly relaxed.
Yeah.
Have belief that you're going to win, and then ultimately you can. Is that the key to success with animals?
Not quite, because you don't want to be, it shouldn't be about winning. It should be about the experience with your horse. You have to have integrity. Horses, all animals, are not stupid. You don't have an intent, a good intent, you won't get anything out of them. You won't be able to show your dog. You won't be able to do this with you won't. Like I had this horse, for instance, right? This lady said, I'm going to this big training session. I've paid for it, cost a lot of money, and I've got to travel to this world-renowned, whoever they are. But I'm worried because every time I go near my horse, he bites me, right? So I had a chat to him and he said, she's just interested in this trainer and I want her to be interested in me. I want to have I want our relationship. I don't mind going, but I need us to be okay. So I told her that. So after a few days, she wrote to me and she goes, oh my God, it's changing. It's so amazing. But then she got a bit of ahead of herself. Because it was 6 weeks until this event. Another week went past and she rang me. She goes, it seems to be going backwards again. Chat to the horse. And I said, he doesn't feel you're authentic. He feels like you're making out you've got this relationship, but he knows all you're thinking about, he's picking up, all you're thinking about is that training. She went, oh. Anyway, she hung up. A week later, she rings me back and she said, everything is so beautiful, I can't even describe it. And I went, oh, great. Well, now you'll be all set for the training. She goes, no, I cancelled it. She said, I cancelled the training and my horse changed overnight. And now it's about him and I. It's got nothing to do with anything else. So now they're like a love story. She goes, I can't go anywhere now without him following me. He and I go everywhere. So it's all about that with horses. It's all about the relationship. And there's a lot of famous people in the world who have this connection with horses that's unfathomable. And they talk about, the relationship. They talk about, and I always say to people, okay, you can talk about a one-night stand. Let's just say a horse doesn't like a one-night stand. You've got to go for coffee. You need to have dinner.
Got to buy it flowers. You've always got to buy it flowers.
Yeah. And then, because really, a horse doesn't care if it never rides. You know why a horse rides? The same reason that horse liked winning, because it liked the adulation, but it loved his mum coming out and hugging him and making a big deal. That's what the horse wants. The horse wants the relationship, but there are some horses that just want to be out in the paddock like a horse grazing with other horses in a herd. They don't want human contact. And people have to understand that and honor it and say, okay, would I want to be forced into doing what I don't want to do? No. So don't do it to a horse.
Bang on.
And that's been my experience, horses above all others. They just want to do what comes natural.
Well, I don't blame them. Would you? I don't.
No. And I'm surprised when horses, I'll say to somebody, this horse it's got a very bad lower area in the back. It's got a weakness. There's not much energy going down the legs. We need to fix this horse, but can I still ride it? Do you want somebody to piggyback when you have a sore back? Do you want somebody getting on your back? No. So what kind of a question is that? This is the, hey, I teach and I do a lot in the horse world. I don't have a horse, but when I do the horse clinics, I never ride. I don't want to ride. I used to ride. I don't want to ride. I want the horse and I to be at one. I just want to talk with them, heal them heal me, work together. I don't want to get on top of them and feel superior. That's just not my thing. So, and horses are in honor of that. And people just need to understand that, and the horse will be wanting to do things with you, but you have to give them a reason.
Okay, relationship first, journey second, or the bits that you might want to achieve second with the horse.
Yes.
Okay, we are going to take a strange and final sideways step into the Koit zone. Koit zone! So in the Koit zone, this is just about you. So, what food stuff is your downfall?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
What food stuff or food item is your downfall?
Yep. Oh, let me think. I'm going to be really boring because I don't drink.
That's good.
Frozen yogurt.
Froyo. Is it froyo? Is that what they call it in Australia?
A froyo. Yes, yes.
Do you have a favourite actor or actress?
I guess probably Brad Pitt, maybe. Not really.
No,
I quite like a different arrangement of them, but yeah.
Why was it Brad Pitt coming to mind? Was it because he was a handsome man?
No, I liked him in Legends of the Fall and Troy, and yeah, I think it's been his character more so. Oh, I'm not saying he's not attractive, but I'm just saying I've liked the characters he's played. I like the characters, and also there's always a good movie. It's always a good movie when he's in it. Of quality usually. Yeah,
That's fair. I won't read too much into that one. Is there anything you collect?
no, I'm minimalist.
Good on you. Good on you. Material
Yeah,
stuff we don't need. What
no,
music style pisses you off the most?
rap.
Yes, finally, someone has agreed with me. I've asked that question low end of times and no one ever says rap. Come on, let's
Oh,
have
it's
that.
rap.
It's
Definitely
bloody
rap.
awful. And why is it in every
There's no
advert at the
skill.
moment?
Sorry?
Why is it in every advert on TV at the moment?
Yeah. Like why? That's why I
We don't
switch it
all
off.
like it. Here's another one.
Well, it's just talking. It's for people who can't sing.
Bang on. What is the best thing you've ever made food-wise?
Oh, I think a crispy skinned salmon.
Crispy skinned salmon. That's easy for you to say. What's
Took a bit
the
out.
last thing you bet or gambled on? Be honest. There's a cheeky little smile there. So
No, I can't because I don't. Oh, I've made an investment, but I haven't gambled on anything.
okay, well, we'll keep investments
So
off
I
the
don't.
list.
Yeah, I don't do lotto because I believe you bring it to you. I don't. I just don't. I don't gamble. And we've got the Melbourne Cup over here, and I don't go for that because at least 1 to 2 horses die during that race. So I
Oh
don't
yeah, no, that's fair.
either. No. So you see, I know I sound like a goody two shoes.
No, that's fine. That means it's good. It means you've conquered any vices before they've arisen. So that's a win. You are winning. Put it that way.
I'm winning.
Exactly.
Yay!
Right, and it is another theme of the winning thing. You find a very special chocolate bar that once eaten allows you to travel back in time to a place and time of your choosing. Where are you going?
I think I'd love to go back maybe 30,000 years to the ancients on this planet to get some answers, to see how we really evolved and where the advanced technologies were that were of natural means. Yeah.
Explain a bit more about that of natural means. the technologies?
Because all of the ancients, they worked with the stars and they worked with the land, they worked with the galaxy, and they could make everything work from what we have. They didn't have to make something fake to make it work. They knew how to make it work, like with the big stones, how they, how they molded things together, but also why they had it with the solstice, why they knew when catastrophes were going to happen because they would read the stars, and why there's same technologies in different places all over the world, which I've gone to quite a few of them. Why they're, I would love to go back to the times that they were created. Right. So yeah, to see
To understand why.
Yeah, so I can see what light beings there were on the planet at the time, because I know I've been shown that it wasn't just from an evolvement. We were actually more advanced before, and we've lost that, and now we're starting again. So I want to go back to where those light beings were from.
Amazing. I also think along the same lines, by the way. Supplementary question. Obviously, that chocolate bar that took you back into the past. What chocolate bar would you rather that be?
Oh, it would have to be dark chocolate.
You know what?
Maybe with a hint of salted caramel, maybe, but I don't really eat chocolate either. So I know.
Right, zero vices for you at all. Besides animal communication, being honest about yourself, what is another thing that you would say you're really good at?
I think, without being modest, well, I've been told I inspire people because I have high energy. So I love to inspire people. I love to, from a cloudy day into a sunny day, yeah, just give them, always empower people, let them know they have their own power. And I'm right on board with that and happy to help direct them if they need it. Yeah.
Super lush, well played. And the final Koit Zone question: have you ever been in a cave?
Yes, I have, with stalactites, and yes, we have a lot of really good caves here in WA.
And
Yeah.
supplementary question, I kind of have to ask it now. Would you be one of those people that would then do like the potholing through caves, really tight spaces, or not?
No, no, definitely not.
No.
I'm happy for somebody else to take a camera down there. I love to see in there, but I don't want to do it myself. No,
No, you never want to
no,
be stuck upside down or anything like that. No, sod that.
no. It's on that.
Sod that indeed. Right, that leads us
Indeed.
that leads us two final questions, and then we will wrap up. So the first of, what else do you like to do in your downtime? Any activities or guilty pleasures?
I am a fitness fanatic. I love the gym. I'm at the gym every day, at least 2 hours. So I love exercise, hiking, anything that I find that relieves the stress. So yeah, that's what I love doing, apart from being in nature. Like, my other thing would be to sit atop a cliff overlooking expansion and just take in the horizon. That's my other thing. Yeah.
And now
I love that.
everyone listening to this can picture that, can't they?
Yeah. It's like a freedom that you're joined in with, that you just can't explain, but you feel
Mm.
it, and you like it, and you want more of it.
Yeah, I'm
And then you
thinking about
realize
it now.
it's way better than chocolate.
Thinking about a holiday next year and doing that very thing. I need to do that now. Which leads us to
Yeah.
the last question. Is there any projects you're currently working on? I know you mentioned the one earlier, but is there anything else you're working on?
Yeah, look, there's a couple, really. The children's thing is big, because that's going to change humanity. But with animal communication, yeah, getting certified communicators everywhere, because my big mission is to not only get everybody on the planet talking to animals, because once you're connected to something, you love it, there's a whole different ball game. But it's also getting as many communicators out there so that the voices of animals can be heard. All species will be heard on this planet, and we will have professionals, so that for anyone listening to this that may not even realize communicators exist, but it will become common knowledge and common use, that you get an animal, you will have a communicator. or you will learn it yourself, one or the other. That's the big mission, is getting all voices heard on this planet. Yep.
Quality. What a nice, aim to go for. Well played to you. Thank you ever so much for your time, Trisha. It's really appreciated. Anyone who comes on the show and gives up their time, which is our most valuable commodity. I really appreciate that. Check out the links in the description to Trisha's stuff. Like I said, go and see her website. If you want to get involved, I'm sure everything will be contacted from there. Trisha, thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much. I've loved it. It's been a privilege and a pleasure. And thank you for inviting me.
No worries. Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye. To watch other KoitCast episodes, please click the image top left. To subscribe to my channel, please click the image top right. Please like and share to help KoitCast grow, and most importantly of all, please click the notification bell so you never miss an upload.